Hello, comic book guys and gals, and welcome to Comic Mag Musings and Spidercomics 7 live.
Happy to
Nick,
be here.
how are you, sir?
Doing well, Bill. It's good to be here. Been pretty excited about this. Been wanting to stream for a while, so it's awesome to get it going and get it rolling out.
Well, it's good to have you on, sir. This is the first time I've ever been on a live stream with someone else, so we'll kind of see how it goes and play it by ear. But we just wanted to take an opportunity, and we've got a tailgater. That's Mr. Alex from Alex Big Blue. Sir, how are you? Good to see you. I believe you know Nick.
Hey, I'm Nick.
Yeah, exactly. So what we wanted to do is just talk a little bit about comics. Nick has some Spidercomics 7 has some comics that he picked up recently that he will show, and I have a couple of raw comic books that we can do with an unboxing. One of the three I know, and the other two I don't know, so it'll be a mystery to all involved. So let's start out with a little bit of comic book chat. What, sir, are you reading right now?
What am I reading? That's a good question. I don't have anything solid that I'm reading fluid as far as issue to issue. I'm honestly kind of just bounced around. I haven't read a new title in a long time, to be honest with you. I don't know what it is. A lot of the new books are just kind of lost on me. Like, I don't feel like I can connect with a lot of the stuff. I don't know. I kind of have an old soul, so I feel like I'm a little bit biased just towards the old stuff.
Now, old being 90s, 80s, 70s.
Yeah, 90s and back is pretty much predominantly what I collect and also read both. So, but as far as I'll put it this way, I think the last book I read, or one of the last books that I read was Secret Wars #2 from or Secret Wars #1. I started issue #2 from the 1984, the original Secret Wars series, the 12 issue run, and I actually had those for a long time, and I just hadn't, for some reason, I've never actually read them. So I decided to start those and kind of go through those. So that's I don't know. I just kind of gravitate towards those stories a lot more, like the classic stories, and I like reading the ones I haven't read yet. And I already knew I was going to love it because, I mean, obviously with all the different characters, and I'm a huge Marvel fan, so I knew immediately I was going to love it anyway. But it's actually really interesting, and I didn't realize some of the characters had as prominent roles as they actually have in the series, so that made it a little bit more interesting to me as well. So, but it's actually a pretty well thought out. I didn't know if it was just kind of like a battle royale, just everybody duking it out, kind of like a random storyline, but it's actually decently thought out, and I actually thought they had written it pretty well. So I've enjoyed it so far.
So how many issues have you read thus far?
About I'm like 1.5 in. I'm really slow as far as reading. So I'll read a book, yeah, and then it'll take me forever to get to the next one. And I don't know. I don't know if I'm lazy or what the deal is with as far as reading goes. But
yeah, my money's on lazy.
I think I'm going to say that's probably mostly what it is. I'm a procrastinator. Like, I was like, I'm going to read these through, and I read one, and then like a couple days later, I start reading issue 2. I get like, I think over halfway or about halfway through it, and I don't know, for whatever reason, I just haven't picked it back up yet, and went back through it. But I that's probably, I'm going to try to finish that, I think, and then I'm wanting to give some of the new DC titles a chance. I picked up some in some grab bags that I was wanting to kind of check out. And to me, even though I'm a huge Marvel fan, I actually feel like the new DC books. Hey, what's going on, James? I feel like a lot of the new DC books seem to be more interesting than a lot of the new Marvel books, which is interesting to me. But I just feel like it's a lot of the things that I'm looking into and kind of reading up on. Even though I hadn't actually read the books yet, just kind of from what I understand, they seem more interesting because Marvel's kind of taken some weird. They've made a lot of odd choices in the last couple of years, and a lot of what they're doing is just sheerly political. And I'm just, that's all you hear on the news. So I don't know about you, but when it comes to reading comics, like I want to see like action and, I mean, decent dialogue, sure, but it shouldn't be geared towards, what's going on in the political landscape. It shouldn't be geared towards, actually, I don't think, what's going on in the real world, because it just kind of takes away from the whole point of me reading comics, is to kind of, it's like an oasis or like an escape for me to just kind of enjoy it,
Yeah, I
And
think a lot of people feel that way. Absolutely.
yeah, and I think most people probably would kind of connect with that idea. I think it's why a lot of people read comics. It's sort of the reason I collect comics is kind of a hobby that it's kind of like an escape. It's really it's kind of some serenity in it to me, to just kind of take it easy, kick back, and read some books. I just pull out my short box. I keep my keys in, like some of my best keys. I'll just get them out and look at them and just enjoy them. Pull my slabs out, and set them out. So every once in a while, kind of display them and just enjoy them. And I feel like that's what it should be about. It shouldn't be about trying to prove a point, whether it be political or whatever. And unfortunately, a lot of the new stories are written that way. And I think I think you're just wasting the material and the resources you have to actually make a compelling, like, good story with awesome characters that already exist. And then, they're trying to alter characters now to fit, whatever landscape they're aiming for. Whereas I'm a proponent. I think you should make more characters, and if you want them to do whatever, sure, But if people already have a huge fan base for certain characters, I think you should leave them. I mean, I'm not saying you can't change your costumes or whatever. I mean, that's fine, but I think there should be somewhat of limitations to that, because you're kind of messing with the fan base. And if anybody gets online and watches like previews of some of the comics coming out, you'll see like a huge dislike ratio on YouTube, and I think that's the fans letting them know, that we're not into a lot of what's going on now. And unfortunately, they're more about proving a point, I feel like, than actually trying to cater to the fan base and give them what we want a lot of times. But that's just kind of my opinion on that. But
Sure. Yeah, and I think a lot of people share that opinion too. Real
yeah,
quickly, let's shout out some of the chat members. James, thanks for stopping by, sir. Good to see you. Andy from England Alberts, always good to see you, sir. How are you? Alex, you don't get a second shout out. We called you out beforehand. Paulo, how are you, sir? Good to see you, all the way from Portugal.
what's up, Paolo?
And so, yeah.
What about you, Bill? What have you been reading?
So for me, I've been reading Master of Kung Fu.
Sweet.
So since
we're talking the original series.
Exactly, yeah. Since Metarog did his 3-part series on Master of Kung Fu, I had read. It's one of the titles I collect, and I had read maybe a third of them, but that got me re-interested in it. I said, well, let me just go take it all the way through. I don't have them all in floppy or trade, but I do have the Marvel Unlimited app, and they're all on there. So I've just been going through reading them. I think I'm on number, I can't remember, 53, 54, something like that there. And prior to that, I was reading some EC reprints.
Recode stuff.
Yeah. What was Haunt of Fear, Tales from the Crypt, Vault of Horror. They were Gemstone reprints from the 90s. So that was fun. But yeah, we'll see what I do after. I've got so much reading that any new comics that I buy, for the most part, are strictly cover buys. If I can get them for $1 or less, then I'll pick them up, because there might be some investment opportunity there. Or in some rare cases, if they're Conan or Ghost Rider or something related, and I think the cover is just absolutely dynamite, then I might hang on to it for that reason and ultimately get a couple and read one. But for the most part, all my reading is Copper and earlier.
Yeah.
I know you'd mentioned DC. I heard that they were doing some good things. I heard Lois Lane was a good book. I haven't read that one. I think, isn't Greg Rucka writing? I think Greg Rucka is writing that. And I think that DC, as much as they got criticized. Hey, Jackson, good to see you, sir. Thanks for stopping by. Yeah, I know where the bodies are buried, so that's how I got Nick here on the show. But I think that they were pretty heavily criticized by certain segments of the comic book collecting community and the comic book community as a whole, creating community for, setting up an alternate distribution channel. I always thought it was a good idea because anytime you're monopolizing something, right, you don't have any competition, and there's probably not going to be a whole lot of growth, improvement, innovation in there because no one's forcing you to make any changes, right?
Right.
But I think that this provides an opportunity for both. I just lost Nick. This provides an opportunity for both Diamond and some of the other distributors to improve their process, get more books on time. There we go. I lost you there for a second.
Okay.
Hey, if you're angry, we can talk about it. You don't need to storm off the chat like that, sir.
I can't handle opinions other than mine. Sorry. Okay. Continue.
No. Yeah, so I think it's an opportunity for the distributors, for all of them, anyone involved, to be able to improve their process, get the books on time to the stores in the quantities that they ordered, with as few damages as possible. And I heard that Diamond was getting pretty bad in all three of those areas prior to the shutdown. But even before that, when you have one distribution or one distributor model like that, all your eggs are in one basket, and they have all the leverage, right? So that's what happened with Diamond. They said, you know what, we're not going to ship books anymore. And just like that, they shut down everybody. That's probably not a good thing, right? There's no recourse, no other way to get your books. Plus, I think that it's given DC an opportunity to kind of get a jump on Marvel. I mean, truth in advertising, I'm a big Marvel guy. I prefer Marvel historically over DC pretty heavily, but I think that this is giving DC an opportunity to get a jump on Marvel. Yeah, exactly. That's the one. And I think Marvel will be okay just because their movie franchises are so big, and once that gets spun back up, I think that they'll be just fine. But I think it's an opportunity for DC to make a little bit of headway, at least in the comic book market area, carve out maybe a bigger piece than they had prior.
Alex said he was reading the new Secret Wars. It's actually really I think it's 2015 series. It looks really good. I haven't read it yet. I've just read a little bit of it. And what I've checked out, I think, is it Robert Kirkman that done the work in that? I forget. I know Alex Schreib's done the covers, or at least the regular covers on those. I'm trying to remember who done the interior work on those. I can't remember right off the top of my head. But anyway, those were actually looked really good. And I'm actually usually pretty critical of newer books as far as how they do the interior art. A lot of the cover art's great. The interior art sometimes is a little sketchy for me, so it just depends. I don't know
who it is.
Is it hard for you to get into a story if the art's kind of bad?
It can be. If the story's strong enough, then I can either forgive the art or maybe the art grows on me. It's kind of like 30 Days of Night. And subsequently, one of my favorite series is called Criminal Macabre, both by Steve Niles, and Ben Templesmith was the artist. And I just couldn't stand his art to begin with, but the story was strong enough. And once I started reading more, I'm like, wow, this guy's art is pretty brilliant. The way he uses different mixed media to create some of his covers and his splash pages, and it kind of grew on me. But if the story isn't strong enough to carry me through, then yes, the art can be very distracting from what could have been a pretty good story.
Yeah.
Real quickly, let's go to some of our chat fellows here. Andy says, "Are you getting the new Shang-Chi series?" Shang-Chi series. And a new Werewolf by Night miniseries. I didn't know about those. I might get them as far as maybe the first issue of each and check it out. My issue is I'm so behind. I could probably, just with what I have, read the rest of my life without getting any new books. I mean, I probably have 1,000 or more trade paperbacks. I have tons and tons of comics. I have all kinds of other non-comic book related books, things that I read, particularly around Civil War history, things like that, that I'm interested in. And so it has to be pretty good for me to kind of abandon what my planned reading is going to be. But I tell you what, Werewolf by Night and Master of Kung Fu are two that I would definitely at least check out the first issue and see if I wanted to continue with those. I mean, I was to the point where it's like, I need to sell some of these trades. So I had like the full trade, the full set of Transmetropolitan. I hadn't even read it yet. So I said, let me go through and read these first, so then I could sell them on eBay. Because I probably bought them 10, 15 years ago, over a year or so, a trade here, a trade there, and just never read them. Just said, well, as soon as I complete them, get them together, then I'll read them. I've done that with so many sets of trade paperbacks that it's an avalanche at some point.
Have you read the Maximum Carnage? Do you have that trade paperback?
I do not. That's one I do. Most of the trades I have, most of the sets I have are non-superhero related ones. They'll mostly be indies, like Why the Last Man, Walking Dead, just because I always felt that with superheroes, let's say I wanted to read Spider-Man. Well, hell, I don't feel comfortable about jumping on at this point when I've got all this back history that I'm not fully familiar with. And will I be able to fully appreciate what's being said here if it's said within the context of understanding something that preceded it? So I always felt an obligation to start from the very beginning to get up to whatever point I'm at and then move forward with that. That's why I got a lot of the Showcase Presents and a lot of the Marvel Essential trades, so I could do that and then feel more comfortable about jumping on with more modern or recent series. So no, that's my long answer. I'm saying no, I haven't.
That's the kind of story. This may sound shallow, but this is the kind of story that I love, and the reason it's action first. Like basically the entire series. Of course, it went through Spectacular Spider-Man, Web of Spider-Man, Amazing Spider-Man. It went through all like the regular Spider-Man title that started out the McFarlane series. I think it went threaded through every one of those, all the Spider-Man series that was going on at the time, which is interesting. It's like a 14, part series. And but of course I bought the trade of it. And of course the games was fantastic too as well on the Super Nintendo or Sega. I think they had it for Sega Genesis too, I forget. But that's like my ideal story because it captures what I love about comics. It has a storyline, but it's action first, and mostly what it's about is just like fantastic fight sequences of it's a really interesting team up. On one side you have Carnage, Streak, Doppelganger, what's the other guy's name? Demo Goblin, I think, or Carrion. He had a really interesting bad guy team up, and of course Carnage. And then on the hero side, like Venom teams up with Spider-Man. Then you have Cloak and Dagger jumping in. Like it's just a really cool team up. And then I think Captain America shows up in a few issues as well. That's the kind of books, I think, team up books like that where you're mixing numerous Marvel characters together and then pitting them against whatever team of supervillains. To me, that's I can really appreciate that, especially ones where they make it work. And I feel like that storyline is without a doubt one of my favorites of all time. Um, I just think that it just captures to me what a comic book should be: action, adventure, just a fun read to where I don't have to be, you know, a super intelligent person just to understand what's happening. Like I've read some books to where I feel like I'm missing something. Like I should know something before I read this book. As I'm reading it, I'm like, I don't know if there's like, if I should have read some of the books prior to this one to kind of understand, like just like what you was talking about. If you jump in the middle of a certain series, sometimes you're like, I don't know that I can fully appreciate this because they're making references to stuff I have no idea what they're talking about.
Right.
It's really hard to, I think, fully appreciate the book. It's not that it isn't written well or anything like that. It's just sometimes it's hard to understand or fully appreciate a book or a series when you haven't started from day one and kind of collected that series and read through it. But nevertheless, I think that's what that's just my opinion. But I think that's what comic books should be. Where you have action and a good storyline to start with, but action first. That's just kind of how I am. What's going on
Yeah,
here?
no, I understand that, and I think that makes sense for a lot of people. To me, I think, to me, it's all about the degree, right? Because it's like several of the comics during the 70s, and I'll stick with Marvel because that's what I'm probably most familiar with. But
Yeah,
Steve Gerber was a classic example of gently pushing social issues thematically in his comic books. Gave you something, gave you all the action you wanted, and then a little bit something maybe on a different level to think about or to question or at least to help open dialogue. I don't know that some of the writers today have that same deft touch when they write. To me,
yeah,
and to a lot of people I've spoken to, it seems a lot more preachy, a lot more of a forced agenda
yeah,
versus something to get you to think and start a discussion respectfully with other people's opinions on whatever social or political issue that they want to reference. Because I do think that social issues, political issues have always to a certain degree been part of comics. I just think they're much more pronounced in a lot of the modern comics. And quite frankly, I think that the writing is a lot poorer today in general than it has been in the past, with the exception of, your campy type of writing that was aimed at clearly a younger audience. I mean, I'll go back to EC. They were in the 1950s, 1950 through 55 for their horror titles. And all these years later, I've read several horror comic books. I haven't read any that are better written. They were just really, really well written. And I think that should be your primary aim as a writer, is to entertain people and to write well.
yeah,
Anything ancillary that you can do, like push whatever your personal political agenda is, if you can accomplish those first two things, then good on you. I guess you can do that. Otherwise, I don't see the point of it.
exactly. I think I would, if I was a writer, I would try to capture like as much of an audience as I could. Like I wouldn't just, because I mean, regardless of what you make, somebody's going to be interested in it.
Sure.
But you would certainly think that you would want as many people as possible to be into the series, one, so they actually continue to buy buy the books, but then also, you would think that you would want something interesting and like captivating that a lot of people is going to be into and appreciate, whether you're an older type collector that's still reading new books, or you're a newer, that you just got into comics. If I was a writer, I would want to try to make compelling stories that I feel like, regardless of whatever age group can appreciate, and regardless of, I think that's what my aim would be. I mean, obviously, if you was but like you said, unfortunately, you get a lot of preachy agenda uh, written books now. That's, you agree with me, you're a terrible person. and it's
Right.
unfortunate that they've chosen to do that. But that's not
Well, yeah,
everyone.
and I would say if we don't like those books and their writing, it's probably collectively our fault, right? Because, real quickly, hey, Gray Man, good to see you, sir.
Gray man.
Because you have people like me that are doing cover buys, right, on a lot of these books that, quite frankly, I'll probably never read most of them because I have a reading list a mile long that doesn't yet include any of those books. And so, speaking with your money, right, that's saying, hey, we're getting the sales, whether it's because we had this artist do this variant issue, whatever the reason, we sold this many comic books, so we must be
Yeah.
doing something right because these people keep buying it, so they must like what we're doing. So
I can see like this meeting. I can see like a round table meeting. Like, I'm fixing to write a terrible story. We need a great cover artist to sell so I can sell this book.
absolutely, absolutely. I suspect that there are meetings that aren't that far off from that right there. Hey
Uh,
Samuel, good to see you, sir.
but yeah, I need to read more new books. But I'm like you though. Like, I'm actually most of the new books I buy are just exclusively because I love the covers. Like, because there's a
Right.
lot of great. There are so many good cover artists right now that's in the industry. One of my favorites, as far as someone somewhat modern, would be I love Alex Ross. Like I guess you call it like a painted type cover. I think
Yep.
he does a lot. It's actually kind of underappreciated in my opinion. Also, I really enjoy Eddie Granoff. He has some really great variant covers that he's done.
Right.
He's one of my favorites as well. Art Germ's great, even though everybody always looks kind of the same that he
Right.
does. But it's always good though. Like, it's not a bad thing. It's just
Sure.
like I kind of like that in a way because I can usually identify that. Like,
Right.
some of those have identifiable qualities to their art style or their a lot of it now is computer, I guess, generated, but whatever. But however they do it, I think it's actually kind of a good thing where you can kind of identify it. But there's so many good ones today. It kind of makes it easier to buy books, like, because books I probably would never buy normally just for the story. If I see a cover that's great, I'm like, I want that in my collection because I want to get it out and
Right.
just enjoy it, for the art.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I agree. I'd say I haven't read too much new DC. I have read some new series, relatively new, I guess, 2018 forward, from Marvel, just because I have the Marvel Unlimited. So I've read several issues of Captain America, Venom, Venom's pretty good. Donny Cates, I think, is a pretty good writer. Thor, uh, Tony Stark, Iron Man, and most of them are just okay, not horrible, but not great. But I'd say Donny Cates has kind of stood out as a pretty good writer, at least one of the ones that have come on lately that work in Marvel. And who's the other guy? The guy that did Scout. He's done some Marvel stuff too, and he's a pretty good writer as well. Jason Aaron. That's right, Jason Aaron.
Yeah.
All right. So speaking of comic books, you have some that you picked up at an antique store not too long ago, right?
Yeah, it's a indoor flea market. I don't know. Do you have peddlers malls where you're at?
We do, yeah. Where people kind of pay for a booth. Yep,
Yeah.
yep. We have those as well.
I was curious if that was like a local deal or if that was kind of more strung across America. I wasn't exactly sure. Of course,
I
I know those.
suspect we invented it in Arizona, and Kentucky stole the idea.
Thank you. Well, tell whoever come up with that idea. Thank you. I have picked up some books. These are all $2 books. I think I actually only bought like two. I only bought three at this store recently. I kind of go in there every once in a while. Like, they haven't had anything new in a long, long time. But for whatever reason, I had some extra time on my hands one day when I was out, so I decided to pop in there and just see if they had anything new that they've brought in. And they had some. I noticed some different looking long boxes that I hadn't seen there before, so I got digging around. And this, I was pretty happy to find this. I don't know. This is probably going to be reversed this way I'm holding my camera right now, but oh, never mind. It's good. Legion of Superheroes. Let me see what issue this is. Issue number 298. This is the first appearance of, if I can say her name right, Amethyst, I think. That's how you say her name.
Yeah.
For $2, try to get towards the glaring all over the place here. It's one of those, DC done a lot of these during this in the Copper Age of like the 16-page previews, or like the preview, they would preview whatever book they was going to do. I've seen this, and honestly, I wasn't exactly sure if it was her first appearance at first. Anyway, it's kind of one that I was, you have books sometimes where it's not necessarily on your list, but you're kind of on the lookout for it. And that was just kind of one of those that I like collecting minor keys almost as much as I do, mid to major keys at times. So I think that's kind of the part of the thrill of the hunt for me, is just finding, even if just minor keys, I just really enjoy it.
Sure, and oftentimes major keys, once upon a time, started out as minor keys, right?
Yeah, that's true. And just by the way, I don't know, do you have an Ultimate Fallout number 4? Like, while we're on the topic.
I do not. No.
You know what? I'll tell you this quick funny story while I'm getting this book. Of course, you know how crazy that book is right now.
Yes.
It's like next level, out of this world at this point. Several years ago, I'm in my LCS and I think it's still polybag too. I can't remember because it's actually, I think it's originally it was polybag, but I'm holding one in my hands in the new purchases bin for $19.99, and here it is, $20 near mint copy, and I'm like, apparently it's some new Spider-Man. I'll be completely honest, I didn't know much about Miles Morales at all at that time, and I don't know about you, but if it's a new character that I'm just not honestly familiar with, dropping $20 is kind of like, at the time, seemed like a pretty big investment in a character that I knew nothing about. And now, of course, I'm like a complete moron. But I mean, at the time, I didn't feel that way. I thought, I'm not paying $20 for this character. I don't even know who he is. And I've kicked myself so many times since that it's not even funny. I thought when it was hitting like $100 near mint, I was kicking myself then. And then within the last, 2 months or so, now I'm just like, I've done about beat myself to death over it. So, but anyway, oh well, you win some, you lose some. I've
Absolutely.
learned.
And the way I look at it, like, so at the beginning of this year, one of my goals was, I'm not going to pay over $1 for a new comic book anymore going forward. And so all these times I can see, it's like, wow, if I'd only bought Thor number 5 or Venom number 3 or whatever these books that blow up. If only I'd bought those at cover price, I would have them and they'd be worth money. But then how many hundreds of other books that are crap that will never be worth anything, that'll be worth 25 cents, 50 cents. I would have had to have bought all those too, right? Because I'm not a Svengali. I don't know what's going to blow up in 6 months or a year and what isn't. So that's kind of how I balance it in my head, at least. I say, well, it would have been nice if I would have bought that, but I probably would have lost even more money had I bought all the other comic books that'll never make it, that'll never blow up and be big keys. So.
No, you're absolutely right. And I guess that's kind of the way I look at it too. And sometimes it pays off, sometimes it doesn't. But as long as you end up with the books that you've wanted, originally.
Sure. Paid off for Andy, I can tell you that.
Yeah. Hey, congrats, Andy. He said he bought it for cover price. That's awesome.
Absolutely.
I wish I would have done that too. But it's kind of one of those things. Like, here's what I gauge it by now, and I'm like, I don't know, I'm kind of detouring off from showing my books here. Sorry, but I showed one book and then I'm detouring off talking about something else. Anyway, I'll say this real quick, then I'll get back to it. So, because I want to see what you have too.
No problem.
But anyways, here's what I've been asking myself: if every book was valued exactly the same, which one would I rather have? And I've been doing this here recently. Would I buy it? That's a book. If that book was $5, let's say it didn't get a lot of hype. Let's say it was, or let's say it was still $20 like it was then. Honestly, I probably still wouldn't have it, just because, unless I found it for cheaper than it. Honestly, because there's other books around the $20 range I'd probably rather have, as far as just because I like maybe like a character a little bit more than him,
Sure.
you know.
Sure.
Not, but anyway, it's just something. I don't know. It's a little tidbit that may be helpful or may not be to anybody else, but it's something that kind of helps because you never know. Books can blow up overnight, and it may not even have much of a rhyme or reason. You could have the biggest clickbait website of all time put out a
Right.
story, like, and just blow a book up for no good reason whatsoever.
Yep, that's true.
Here's a book that this is the rarest comic you'll see today. You ready?
Yep.
You're sitting down, right?
Yep. Is this X-Men #1?
Okay. Wildcat #1.
Sweet.
No, this is actually believe it or not, this is actually was trending on Cover Price Top 20.
Yeah, there is some heat with that. Because I think is it Grifter? Someone's supposed to be crossing over into the DC universe, maybe with some sort of TV show or film or something like that. And so, yeah, Wildcats #1 is starting to climb because of that.
But to be completely honest, like, even though they printed 2 gazillion of these, obviously, it's actually Gray Man said Fallout 4 is just a video game.
Yeah.
They have video game all the time. By the way, I credit Gray Man for helping me get into that game even more. A shout out to Gray Man. I see him live streaming the Fallout. Oh, Brazilian edition. That's awesome.
Yeah, that is cool.
Yeah, this is, I don't know, to be honest, I don't know. Have you ever read this book, Bill?
I have not.
I read it some time ago, and I gotta say it's not bad. Is it a little bit of a ripoff from X-Men? Probably so. However, it's not like they have all the same powers or anything like that. The team is kind of similar to X-Men, to be honest. I also didn't know there was a '90s TV show that was animated that came out that I wasn't even aware of until like last year. But anyway, I watched some of that as well. But Jim Lee
about Wildcats, really?
Yeah, it's on YouTube. Know that. Yeah, I think they.
I think here's the biggest difference is that there's a bit of an age gap between you and me. So when you were younger and collecting, it was like the '90s was comic books to you. I am just not a fan of the Liefelds, Lees, Larsons. I just don't like that '90s art style. It never really appealed to me, so I haven't read a whole lot of the books. But yeah. I have heard that several of them are actually pretty good reads. I just kind of need to get past that mental block to be able to read a couple of them.
Yeah, I know Alex is a huge Wildcats fan. Yeah, he said I read through issue 11. It's actually it is actually pretty good, and it was $2. So I was like, yeah, and that's what the heat from was. A Grifter. That's where the heat's coming from. No, I understand though what you're talking with the age gap. I know what you're saying because yeah, well, for one, it's overprinted. Every book, at that time was like, special collector's edition. And, you find them in 50-cent bins all the time,
Right.
And they are collector's editions, I guess, to some folks. But I do have a soft place for 90s books. And I do think it's probably because I was, I grew up in the 90s. So it's probably why. But speaking of 90s, this was another book I picked up.
There's a segue.
This one is X Factor.
Yeah.
First appearance of Exodus. This is a spec book of mine. Once the X-Men come to the MCU, I have I think I'm sitting on like 5 copies of it, 4 or 5 copies of this book right now, which they're pretty cheap. It's not like it's expensive.
What issue number is that?
Number 92.
Okay. It's got that sweet ass hologram on the cover.
Oh yeah, well, you can't have a '90s book without something shiny.
You can't. That's true. Which character is that? Is that
Havoc?
Havoc. Okay.
It's I don't know. It's actually I was reading through this one too. You know what? Now that you mentioned it, apparently it's easier for me to read 90s books. Uh, I never really thought about that much, but you said that now it's kind of got me thinking. I think I gravitate towards these. I have like 4 or 5 copies of this book, and I don't even have any good reason for it. It's just, I guess, of course, Exodus is a pretty cool character, but anyways. So those were the only books I picked up the other day at the indoor flea market. I did buy some grab bags, but I want to see what you got. If you want to unbox or whatever you want to do, Billy, you go
Okay.
ahead and help yourself.
So
Out.
those were $2 a pop.
Yes, sir.
I think that's a good deal because you're right. I mean, they were produced in abundance, but look at X-Force #4, right? That was hundreds of thousands, maybe over 1 million were produced of that, but it's still commanding money for some reason. So
Yeah.
I think that those aren't bad pickups there for you. They could have the same thing. Oh, how cool is that?
That's awesome. Yeah, I think that's the weird part is I used to always think if something was overprinted that had absolutely no chance of really ever gaining much steam. But like you just said, X-Men #4 is a prime example. Actually, for that matter, New Mutants '98 has a high print run, and obviously we know that book is,
Oh, and it's supply and demand too, right? So if you printed 1 million and 3 million want it, well, then the price is going to go up. Or if you printed 1 million and 990,000 of the people that have them don't want to sell them, well, then the real number you have is 10,000, right? For everybody else who wants one to get one. So it just depends on that.
If you're a seller, as soon as a book gets hot, that's the time to sell it. Like you shouldn't wait. I've done that with a lot of books. Like recently, you probably heard about the hype of Snowflame, the cocaine-powered supervillain that showed up in what is it, the New Titans, one of the or whatever the series was, the New Guardians. That's what it was, the New Guardians. And issue #2, Snowflame, he snorts cocaine and he like shoots cocaine at people. That's his power. It's the most weird, horrible, campy idea of all time.
Right. But well, it's tough. It's like stocks, right? It's kind of like stock. It's like knowing the right time to buy and the right time to sell is the whole name of the game. I imagine if you flip comic books, it's the same thing, right? It's like if you sold Miles Morales Ultimate Fallout, what is it, 4? If you sold that 3 months ago, you said, wow, I made a lot of money. Well, if you had held on to it a couple more months, you would have made even more money, right? So who knows where that peak is, with any particular book. That's kind of the trick. I think if you can tie it to media, there's a formula where they say right after a trailer drops, between that and before the actual movie is out in the theaters, that's when that's the sweet spot for selling a comic book. But it's tough.
Yeah, it's most of my books that I own, like my bigger keys, I've gotten from flipping a lot of books and just moving books in my collection. When they would get hot, I'd just jump on it and start selling them then because I'm like, this book's going to cool back down in like maybe even 2 weeks to a month or 2 months.
Sure, because if you really like it, you can pick it up again then for less, right?
Exactly, and that's my philosophy, and it's paid off to the most part. And sometimes, you make a mistake and I sell a book too quick, and then, I lost out on some of the money I had if I'd just been a little bit more patient. But usually, if something spikes up, if you're going to sell it, that would be ideal as far as what you're going to do.
Sure.
I think I sold that book for like the Snowflame book for like $40 or $50, and I had like $5 to $7 in it. I mean, so there's times where there's times like that where, and now it's back to like a $20, $30 book again. So it's just hey
Mastodon, good to see you, sir.
Hey Mastodon. Alex said that they beat him by sending him to rehab. That's great. Yeah, I don't know how they defeated him. I don't know. I guess clogged his nose. I don't know. I didn't read it.
I don't think I've ever actually sold a raw comic book.
Really?
I've sold probably hundreds of graded comic books, but I don't believe I've ever actually sold a raw comic book.
Huh.
but who knows? Maybe that's something I'll do at some point in the future. It's just a lot easier for me to sell graded. You don't have to worry about someone else's interpretation of the grade versus yours.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, there's less money in it if you buy graded and sell graded.
Yeah.
So speaking of raw comic books, there we are. Let's see what we got. Actually, this one I do know. I'm pretty sure I know what this one is. Usually I hold on to stuff for so long that I end up forgetting about what it was. But that's not the case with this one. All right, so we got our Gemini shipper.
Yeah, I don't blame you, man. Sometimes I have a hard time letting go of books. If it means a lot to me, like I have a really hard time selling it, even if it's spiking up in price. If I really enjoy a character, I have a hard time letting go of those too. So I understand where you're coming from.
Yeah, and I'm good with what I guess I'm really good with is loving the things I love, and the other ones, there's no attachment whatsoever. Yeah. So that's why I've been able to sell so many slab comic books. If it's not something I collect, I don't care. Then it should go to someone who's going to better appreciate it than me. True. And hopefully I can make a little bit to be able to put towards something that I want to keep. But you're right. So there was during an interview with Willie Nelson, the interviewer asked him if he regretted selling, was it Blue Eyes Crying in the Rain for like $20 when he did the song that he wrote?
Yeah.
Because it's made millions and millions of dollars since then. And he said, I had to eat.
Yeah.
I needed the money. So no, I don't regret it from that aspect. And so absolutely, Jackson, I know I sold a lot of cards, trading cards, sports cards when I was younger that I wish I had back, but at the time I needed the money, to pay for this, that, or the other. So what are you going to do? The regrets I have is the things that my mom threw out. Those are the things that I regret.
Oh.
All right. So here's what we have. Oh, okay. We have.
What's up, Nova Man?
Off. What's going on, Nova? Good to see you, sir. Thanks for stopping by.
Bill's about to open Batman Adventures number 12.
Yeah, no, I wish.
And ASM 300. He said he bought it a lot.
All right. We got it. So this is, speaking of indies, this is Deadly Class number 1.
Cool.
Rec Remender book. And this is, let's see, I would put this 9.6 to 9.8. I'll probably end up getting this one graded. And I do like Rick Remender because he wrote Fear Agent, which is one of my favorite series, but I'll probably end up selling this. I think there's a Deadly Class TV show on right now, or it's in production or something like that. So this is not the one that I thought I knew about. So Deadly Class number 1. All right, what do we got? I'm losing the chat.
You bought an arm. You bought an arm. So he either bought the first appearance of Prowler, or he bought a dismembered body part of an old man.
Was it supposed to be ASM somewhere? instead of ARM. Is that it? Yeah. There it is. No, actually, I think the gray man is onto something. There's an investigation into the offing right now of Nova Man. A warrant is being issued for him right now as we speak, looking for those missing body parts. 78 of them to be exact.
Speaking of really weird, like FBI looking into stuff, I was in the house one day, and I was looking at my Wi-Fi, and out of nowhere, the one of the Wi-Fi things that pops up, it says FBI van, and I was like, what in the world? So I honestly kind of thought somebody was like trolling me or something at first. Like I'm looking out of my windows, almost made me paranoid there for a minute. Like, well, the good news is I'm not doing anything illegal. So, if they're watching me, they can watch me, So I'm not doing anything. That's the good news,
Right.
Really weird though, and I still haven't figured out what that was all about. So
yeah, Gray Man's got it. Nova Man is an arms dealer. That's good. I like it. All right, you want to do one of your Ollie bags? Do you have one, multiple?
Yeah, I already opened them, but I can show them off one by one. I can do that.
All right, I tell you what, I'll do this one. There we are.
Yeah, go ahead.
Then we'll do your bags, and then I'll do the last one.
Yep, sounds good, man.
All right, I'm gonna do this. How do we do it? No. There we go. All right. So I don't know. I'm not even guessing anymore. I thought I knew what the last one was. Maybe that's this one. I guess I really don't know. So we're gonna find out. All right. Yeah, this is the one that I thought the last one was. So, pretty cool. They secured it in here with painter's tape.
Sweet.
Makes it a little bit easier to get off of the plastic. All right, so this is like the second or third copy I have of this one. It's a really good series by Brubaker. Big fan of his, more crime writing. And I suspect that if I'm a betting man, I'm betting that this will get optioned for something soon. It's too good of a story. I think I'm going to do a comic book review on this. I have the trade, so I'll just use that. And do a review on that guy. that could be, yeah. It could be that some smarty pants had his own Wi-Fi signal that he named it that. Gray Man said probably a romance comic. That's what was hidden beneath that particular book that I showed. Yes, these are the scissors. My specially made for right-handers, left-handed box cutter.
Sweet. Yeah, I could definitely see Velvet them doing something with that property. I think that would be pretty wise. Looks like it'd be something they could use for sure.
Yeah, I think so.
I know you was talking about Why the Last Man earlier. That's one that they're, as far as I know, they're still moving forward with planning on doing something with that. So
yeah, it's funny with a lot of the indies. I've read a lot of them, but so it's like that thing we're talking about. I could never cash out because all I ever bought were trades.
Yeah.
Say, well, I could buy these one at a time, or I can just wait and get a trade when it comes out. So I have like just nothing but trades of all those Saga, Why the Last Man, all these ones that have, the number one issue is worth something. I never hit on any of those.
Yeah, I understand.
All right. Go ahead.
What's it?
I'm gonna make you
All
bigger.
Right. My daughter's going to probably jump in the picture here, but anyway, this is one. I bought this grab bag simply because of this cover right here. This was on the outside of the package. This is a Tyler Kirkham variant cover that I thought was gorgeous with Deathstroke and Two-Face here. I love the art right here. I think it's fantastic.
It is.
Really nice. I hadn't actually seen this book before. I don't think I got the grab bags, but that was one I really enjoyed. And so that was on the outside of it. I knew I was getting that one. Looked really interesting. Another one of the books that was in the grab bag was Titans, issue number 25. This one looks pretty good as well. I actually want to read this because I think it came out last year, 2019. I feel like this will be something that I would enjoy. The new Teen Titans are my favorite DC team, so I feel like it would only make sense for me to try to at least give it a go and see how I feel about the new writing of it. So definitely want to try that out. I think it's Nightwing. Looks like Nightwing there in the middle.
Yeah. Yep.
So I guess he's leading the charge of this new Titans team. I'm not real sure. Like I said, I haven't checked it out yet, but it looks good. I like this one. This is another book. So another book that was in there, Batman Kings of Fear. This is a really, really cool cover. Let me get my camera over here. Sorry. There we go. Has a lot of villains on the cover here. You got basically every Batman villain imaginable pretty much on the cover. This is Kings of Fear number 5. And I want to read this one as well. Anything, like I said earlier, that has a bunch of villains on it or, team up books, I'm always down to at least give them a go.
Sure.
So that was pretty cool. Another book from the grab bags was Superman, issue number 664.
Nice.
I'm actually, even though I don't like excessively collect Superman books, it's just a lot of the stories are actually really good, and I actually, to the most part, enjoy Superman. Even the newer stuff is pretty good most of the time. Let's see.
Yeah, I think it's a lot of the writers take it as a big challenge, right? It's like, how do I create something new and exciting and interesting with such a long established character? So I think you do get some good stories. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's probably exactly how they look at it too. This one I was happy to get. This is from the Dark Reign. It's War Machine number 1.
Nice.
Dark Reign. It's a really great cover. I'm not exactly sure.
It's a great cover, yeah.
I don't know if I can look it up real quick. Let me just turn over here. I just want to see. Let's see. Cover art. Artist and cover artist is Leonardo Manco. So there we go. So Leonardo Manco did the cover on this. Just a really great cover. And I'm a huge War Machine fan. I'm actually a bigger War Machine fan than I am Iron Man. I like his armor better. I just think I like all the heavy artillery that comes with his.
Yeah, the shoulder cannon is bananas, isn't it?
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah, I love that.
All right, Bill, this is one I got in here. This was a pretty cool book. This is right up your alley. GI Combat.
Oh, that is cool. Absolutely.
Yeah, this was one of the books in there. It's pretty cool. These grab bags at Ollie's, if nobody's ever got them before, mostly a lot of them is somewhat more modern, but they throw in Bronze Age books, and this one's actually, I think, copper, but they throw in copper and Bronze Age books here and there as well. So you really truly never do know what you're getting unless you can peek through the plastic and kind of see what you're getting. But this is a GI Combat number 274.
That is
And it's
killer.
pretty cool.
Yeah,
cover.
I mean, um, if you put the Marvel and the DC books, war books together, you know, DC's got Marvel beaten hands down. I mean, Marvel's got Sergeant Rock. That's
Yeah,
I'm sorry, no, Sergeant Fury. That's about
Sergeant Fury.
it. Yeah. Um,
That's true.
DC's got Sergeant Rock. They've got the Unknown Soldier. They've got Enemy Ace. They've got Haunted Tank. They've got so many that spun off from their main titles that have become popular. It's pretty incredible. Weird
Yeah.
War Tales, which I love. That's one of the ones I collect from DC. Just incredible war titles.
There's what's the other one? War is Hell. There was that one. I was trying to
Yeah,
remember.
War is Hell. That's a Marvel one.
I was thinking that was Marvel. They
Yep.
don't have a ton of them, like you said, but I was thinking that was Marvel, but
Yep.
most of them are pretty intriguing.
Blitzkrieg is a good. I think there were only 4 or 5 issues of that one. That's from DC, but that was like from the German standpoint during World War II. That was a pretty good one. That was a DC book as well. What do you say? Here, other DC. Yeah, I think that's probably true, Gray Man, for at least for anthology horror comics. I think if you start counting like Tomb of Dracula, Werewolf, if you want to call those horror comics, it might be a little bit different. But if you want to say anthology horror and definitely war, DC outclasses Marvel, in my opinion.
Yeah.
We got the bats.
Detective Comics issue 993. Pretty cool cover there.
Absolutely.
Not sure whose hand that is. Almost looks like, what does it say?
Pretty
The fate.
creepy.
I guess it's Two-Face, the fate of Two-Face. So apparently, I don't know if he dies in this issue or what. I'll have to check that out.
That's a great looking cover.
So that was pretty neat. Here's some. I get some '90s nostalgia going here, Bill.
All right.
It's not '90s, but it's not '90s, but it kind of reminds me of it with this. Look at that shininess.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, a sweet chromium cover.
Oh yeah, you gotta love the chromium goodness. The first chromium cover I think that they ever did was Bloodshot from Image Comics, #1 issue. Just a little history tidbit on the chromium covers. Cool. I like chromium covers. This is Justice League Odyssey #2 in all of its shiny glory.
See, I like the chromium covers too. I like the holograms. It's kind of like, even though I know I shouldn't, I like 1987 through 1991 IROC Camaro cars.
Oh yeah.
You know the ones where you'd have a mullet and a t-shirt on and drive around in. Even though I know I shouldn't, there's a special place inside of me that loves those. It's the same thing with some of those 90s comics.
Yeah.
I just love the shininess.
My first car was a 1987 Camaro.
There you go.
That's true. Yeah. The paint scheme was a white with black racing stripes and rust. It was a fantastic.
Yeah, exactly.
But I bought it for $750 and it ran and drove, and I got use out of it.
Absolutely, that's what you needed.
And my fiance at the time wasn't as crazy about it as I was, because we broke down a couple times. Oh,
I bet.
But you learn to appreciate things after a while. This is Batman #61, another book I got. I'll try to move through these so you have time to. I want to see which. There's that one. Superman in Action Comics. This is issue 696. Pretty cool. I'm not sure who done the cover on this one, to be honest. It almost looks like George Perez. I don't think it is, but kind of reminds me of something he would do. I don't know. I'll have to know who done it though.
Action 667.
I'll have to check that out. I don't know. This was a welcome surprise. Fantastic Four 250. That was one of the books in the grab bag. This is a really
Oh,
cool
that's pretty
cover.
cool.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I was tickled when I seen this book in there. And in fact, the surprising part is to just beat the bag without any board. It's like really pristine condition. I would say it's probably an 8.0 or so. Um, yeah,
No,
exactly.
no.
That's true. That's actually true. Brandon's right on track with that. So I got that one. I thought
Well,
that was cool.
real quickly, so I'll interject here. So I think I said before in a live stream, I had a buddy who was from a place called Central City, Kentucky.
Yeah.
And we were in the Army together, and he had 1989 Camaro IROC Z with T-tops, you know, the whole the whole thing. And I'd say we used to go around in that, you know, at Fort Hood for a couple of years, and then we both got out at about the same time, and it must have been 2.5 months later. That car ended up wrapped around a telephone pole, and that was the end of the Camaro 1989 IROC Z. And so what he got after that, I don't know, but I imagine there are quite a few of those cars wrapped around telephone poles in Kentucky. That's my
The
guess.
mullet, the mullet Superman. He said that Superman has a Z28. I don't know that he would need one. I don't know that Superman would need one, but I feel like if he did need one, like a car, that's what he would drive for sure.
I think he might. Thanks, Gray Man. So he said it's Jackson, was that Geis, who did the cover on that 696 Superman.
Jackson
No,
Juice.
that was Batman, right? No, that was the Action Comics. Action Comics
Yeah.
696, right?
Thank you, man. I honestly wasn't sure who done that one, so thank you. Batman, Superman, 31. A lot of these I never had any of these books of the series either, so at least this gives me a way to check them out. Justice League, Aquaman, Drowned Earth, number one issue, so it'd be a good way to try this one out. Then these last three, I'll just go ahead and show these real quick, and then I'll be done here. Batman 0 Year, New 52, number 29. That's just basically it's not a sketch cover. It's just a blank cover, I guess. Or I don't think it's a sketch cover.
Right, yeah, but it's one that you could get someone to do a sketch on, right? Yeah.
Yeah, it's like a smooth thing, so it's not like the hard cardstock.
Yeah, I think those are called blank variants or blank cover variants.
I think so, yeah. It's smooth, like, so I don't think it's, it's not like the cardstock. So I think that's what it is, though. I think it's, if you want somebody to, sign your, I guess, sketch or something on, you could. So my brother, Alex Big Blue, hooked me up with this. Check this out. Triple H, Boom Comics.
Very cool.
Any wrestling fans out there, you can appreciate this.
Now, see, I was, but that's after my time. When I watched wrestling, it was called the WWF, and there was like Junkyard Dog and Jimmy Superfly Snuka and Randy Macho Man Savage, Paul Mr. Wonderful Orndorff. Those are the guys that I watched. I didn't watch it when you had the Rock and all those folks in it.
Oh yeah, the Macho Man.
Exactly.
Got a Victorian number 12. Alex gave me this one as well. He had some doubles he was giving away.
Nice.
So
hey, Sly, good to see you. Thanks for stopping by.
Then the last book, Alex gave me this one as an AOK as well. It's Batman Earth 1. Pretty cool.
That is awesome.
I flipped through that. It looks really good. So yeah, that's the books. That's all I have to show, Bill. So you go ahead and I want to see what you got there, buddy.
Cool. Yeah, Macho Man was awesome. My mom used to work at a little gift shop inside of a hotel in Phoenix, and whenever some of the wrestlers would come do a show in Phoenix, some of them would stay there. And Macho Man, my mom's name was Marilyn. He kept calling her Merlin, and she said, "Why do you make all those, why do you yell all the time when you're on?" She would very much speak her mind when you're on there. He said, "It's all image, Merlin. old image. And he was always one of her favorites, I think, that came into the shop.
Yeah, that's all.
What else? Yeah, didn't they have like a bunch of regionalized wrestling confederations that McMahon kind of bought up and turned into one? I don't know, like I'm not big into the history of wrestling and stuff, but I think it started regionally, right?
One of the big ones during, I think it was the 80s or maybe even early 90s was I think around the 80s was prominent, was Smoky Mountain Wrestling in Tennessee.
Wow.
They pulled a lot of the wrestlers from there, like that ended up being on WWF like later on. Some of them, like for instance, I think the Unabomb, who eventually went on to be Kane. I think he came from.
Okay.
Started at, and a bunch of those guys. Also, there was Ohio Valley Wrestling actually just about a decade ago, which is about it's in Louisville, Kentucky, is where it was at, and so it's about an hour and a half from where I grew up at, or about an hour and a half, and that's where all the big stars, basically of today on WWE, came from. Was on OVW. We used to go and actually watch them in a little town called Hodgenville, where I used to live, and they would even come over there to like small towns. I talked to a lot of the guys that's famous on, or was anyway, on WWE, and and a lot of them was actually super nice, really super nice to get to meet them and just talk to them.
Cool.
So that was pretty cool. But yeah, it's just a little wrestling. Used to be a lot into wrestling, not so much anymore, honestly. A lot of the newer stuff's not as interesting to me. But back when it was
I haven't watched it since I was little. I mean, they used to have a cartoon on with Cyndi Lauper and Captain Lou Albano and Hulk Hogan and all the wrestling gang. I used to watch that. I used to have these little thumb wrestlers. They had like Junkyard Dog, Ricky the Dragon Steamboat, Hulk Hogan, a bunch of them as thumb wrestlers. And whenever I was carted along to church, I'd sit there in the pew and just wrestle, to mess with the little thumb wrestlers or whatever characters I had until I looked up and all right, the sermon's over. Now I can head out of here. So it got me through. Real quickly. So yes, I think, and I'm no expert at it, but if the IROC had more than 250 horsepower, I would be surprised. And it was heavy. So I think it was underpowered, but usually people that had them try to drive them like a bat out of hell. And that's why a lot of them would end up in accidents and things like that.
If you ask 18-year-old me, I would tell you it was the best car you possibly ever had.
I'm sure you would. Absolutely. All right, we got one more.
Awesome.
Let's do this thing. All right. Boom. All right, I don't know what this guy is. So we will find out.
I was getting ready to ask you if it was Marvel DC. I was going to ask you if it's Marvel DC, but you said you don't know, so okay.
Yeah, I don't know. It could be either. It could be what is that? An indie? I'm not sure. All right, so we got this plastic envelope, and inside we have a paper envelope.
Oh yeah, Alex, I remember that, the Hulk Hogan cartoon. Yeah, that was out. I don't know when they put that out, but we used to have a VHS of this old wrestling cartoon. For whatever reason, they called, I forgot who it was, one of the wrestlers, we call Andre the Giant. He's like, Andrea. I don't know why they called him Andrea, but that's what they always called him.
Andre the Giant was a good one, I think. And they had the Heart Foundation. Who else? They had the British Bulldogs. Ted DiBiase. I think Paul Orndorff was probably my favorite. Leaping Lanny Popoff or something like that. There's so many of them. Oh, there you go. So it's another one.
Okay.
All right, so we have Velvet number 1 again.
Nice.
That was the
Well, hey,
other one.
if they option that book, you're sitting on a gold mine now. So that's awesome.
Exactly. They optioned that. I got a couple of them now. Yes. That was Hulk Hogan, right? He used to tell all the Hulkamaniacs to say their prayers, eat their vitamins, eat their vegetables, so they can grow, be big and strong, and bat somebody around the wrestling ring.
Yeah, Gray Man, you mentioned earlier. I don't know. I think Ohio Valley still exists. Still do have wrestling there, but now like the major one, I think, is in Florida. I think they moved like the main, if you want to call it that, headquarters as far as where they train basically WWE stars. I think they moved it to somewhere in Florida. The last I heard, but I'm not exactly sure about that. It may be different now, but
hey, there's a local connection there too, Jackson. Right? Bob Crane was murdered in Scottsdale, Arizona, and they still, all these years later, have never solved that mystery of who murdered him. But apparently, he was he was quite the ladies' man, and he was into making home movies of his intimate encounters with women.
nice.
And so, allegedly, someone who was either involved with that process with him, or someone who is a husband or boyfriend of someone with whom Mr. Crane had an encounter, proceeded to bludgeon him to death in his bed in a Scottsdale. It's like an apartment or a long-term hotel, long-stay hotel. So yeah, I don't know if we'll ever find out, but that was a great show. I loved that show, Hogan's Heroes.
Has anybody ever seen the Robot Chicken sketch they did with Hogan's Heroes? It was actually Hulk Hogan. That's how they did it.
Was it?
It's hilarious. You need to watch it sometime. It's funny.
Hulk Hogan. That's funny.
Yeah, man. That was that. I need to check that book out. That it looks pretty cool.
Yeah, it's been a few. Got to steer Clearview AZ, folks. That's right. You get on our bad side, we'll bludgeon you to death in your bed. That's just what we do.
I hope you didn't show too many '90s books, Bill.
What's that? Yeah. If you do, you piss me off. Yeah.
I wasn't trying to do that. So, yeah. So if I'm murdered tomorrow, I know what happened.
That's right. Well, you've got a whole chat full of people, and they'll know where to start investigating.
That's right.
All right. Well, I think that's it. Nick, Mr. Spidercomics 7, thank you so much for showing up. You have any videos that you're going to be dropping soon?
Yeah. First of all, thanks for having me, Bill. I had a lot of fun. This was awesome.
Likewise.
And looking forward to doing it again. Yeah, actually, hopefully, I should have one of my personal grails coming in tomorrow, getting in the mail. I think I'll get it tomorrow.
Nice.
And if I do, I'll try to have that uploaded tomorrow. Probably. Pretty excited about it. I want to get it and check it out first. I would do an unboxing on it, but I'm too afraid that, I don't know. It's one of those things where I'm a little bit leery because this guy admitted that he never shipped a comic book before. So I'm a little nervous. I got a pretty good deal on it. I talked to him for a while, he told me how he was going to ship it. So I feel a little better because it sounded good as far as how he told me. But I think I'm just going to get it open and check it out first. And then if everything adds up and looks like, from what I've seen of it, it looked fine. But, it's one of those things where I'm a little bit leery on it. So I kind of want to get it out just in case something is to go haywire, But I may end up making the unboxing video, and then I may not. If it's horrible and makes me sad and want to go into depression, I probably won't upload it. So that's probably that's how I'm going to gauge that. The good news is eBay has a money back, guarantee one way or another if you're not.
Absolutely.
So there's
I think it's within 30 days, right? As long as you report it within 30 days. Yeah.
So
cool.
Yeah, so that's pretty much all I have on the slate now that I showed those books right there. So that's pretty much it, though.
I think Nova said.
He may have. No, who knows? I'll find out tomorrow.
All right. Tomorrow I have my first ever CGC unboxing. So I'll be opening that up and revealing the grades. Tomorrow that'll drop at 3:30 Arizona time, whatever that time is. I don't get into the time zones, but I think it's Mountain Standard Time.
Yeah. Smoky Mountain Wrestling.
Yeah, exactly. So like 15 to 20 years ago, I sent in 6 comic books through a local comic book shop to CGC because you couldn't get your own membership back then. They had like preferred dealers that you'd have to go through. But this is the first time I've ever actually sent raw books into CGC, had them graded and gotten them back. I mean, I have lots of slabs, right? But I bought them all slabbed. So that'll be exciting. We'll see. Yes, Andy. I'll just say yes without revealing too much.
I need to talk to you about that, Bill, and see, because I've never actually sent any books to CGC. I'm like you've always bought them graded. I need to talk to you about the process because I got a couple books I need to send off, or
Yeah, it was. I got to tell you, it was fun. It sucked waiting, and I had to wait a while because you hear now where everyone's saying, "Wow, the turnaround times of CGC are really fast because there are no cons, with people submitting and those getting priority grading, which is probably true. I suspect it is true. But I sent mine in to get pressed and cleaned first with CCS. And there is a huge amount of time from going from CGC to CCS and back to CGC. And that's where the bulk of the 2.5 months, I think, that's where it was at. Because once they got back to CGC, one set was graded in like 3 days and the other set was graded in a week. So I had 20 total books, 13 in one that were modern tier, and then 7 in another that was value tier.
That's true.
That's smart. But that should be fun. It was definitely fun for me. I was super. It's such a different experience to send something in that you think can achieve a particular grade, get it back, know that you took this floppy, sad little comic book and put it in this airtight, trapped it into this plastic tube,
somehow
which will never be revealed from again. Oh, that's for Metarog. That's for all those people that hate slabbing. I think it's wonderful. I think it gives it a presence. It gives you an ability to display it, and it protects it. But it's so cool to see them. You're like, wow, I did that. I sent that in, versus buying them, which is what I've always done before, which I'll still continue to do. Plus, it's if you're good at grading and good at getting deals, there's certainly a lot more upside for buying something raw that was undergraded, sending it in, and getting it back versus buying a slab.
I think just as much as preservation for me, like it's important because, I have a few books. There's always that off chance that you don't see some type of restoration on some of the older books.
Sure.
And that's what I'm a little bit concerned about. I don't think I have any that's restored, but honestly, it's kind of one of those things I probably won't know until I send a couple of them off. But I have a few books I want to get graded, if for no other reason to preserve them, and so I just know that they're fine. I have them in Mylar. It's not like anything's happened to them, but it's just kind of, I think more of like the thought of just, plus I want to display them that way. It's easier to display them if they're already slabbed, don't have to worry about anything happening.
Yep.
But
no, I'm with you. And I think there are myriad reasons, right, why you would grade books, but we will save those for another stream.
That's right.
All right. So, so I have that. I have my support video for Man Cave Comics sneaking in just, I think, prior to the 8/1 deadline on that one, so that'll be dropping Wednesday. But I'll stick to probably the Monday, Wednesday, Friday schedule that I've been at for a while. I might pull it back and do 2 days a week or something like that. We'll see. But at least for next week, I have Monday, Wednesday, and Friday videos. Yeah, I can imagine, Andy, especially for you. The shipping costs were a decent amount for me, and I'm within the country. So
Yep.
that does stink.
It's expensive. Yeah.
Yep. All right. Well, with that being said, Nick, thank you so much. Everyone be sure to check out Spidercomics 7 and watch his video that may or may not be dropped showing that grail that he's getting in the mail. We shall see.
Depends on how it turns out. Yeah.
Yeah, it depends on how it turns out. Thanks, everyone, for tuning in. We appreciate it. Thank you, Nick. And everyone, have a wonderful evening and a good week. Bye, all.
Take care, guys.